Morning, everyone. This is indeed a bittersweet moment for me. As Nick mentioned, I'm actually moving on from the AIDS Foundations. This is very much my swan song, and it's a great privilege, like Nick said, for me to be here with the NZAF and have been able to share in this week and give something one last time. It's my job this morning to just run through some of the background to Love Your Condom, which is a social marketing program for MSM that the NZAF runs. So I want to say a little bit about the New Zealand context, first of all, for those of you who aren't familiar. A little bit about the background of social marketing and how we are using it at home. I do want to acknowledge Joe Rich, who's the NZAF Manager, Marketing and Communications, who put most of this presentation together, and I've just shuffled it around a bit for the purposes of this session. If any of you were at our satellite on Tuesday night, much of the content of this presentation is going to be a repeat, so you can either nod off or step out and come back once Jordan takes over. The first thing I always want to acknowledge in the global context is how lucky we are in New Zealand to be working in the environment that we do, because everything on this slide really facilitates us and makes it able for us to run the social marketing program that we run. On the left there you can see a whole raft of legislative changes which have enabled us to work alongside and with all of the kind of key affected groups back home. We have virtually no epidemic among people who inject drugs, and that's thanks to very early setup of the needle exchange program. We have extremely high rates of condom use among sex workers and very, very low incidence year on year in that space. And way back in '86, of course, we had homosexual law reform, which meant that we could access gay men, work with them, alongside them, sort of free and openly. And as I said, I'd like to acknowledge that in this space, because I know that this is a challenge for many, many people. And of course, I couldn't come to Australia without mentioning our most recent legislative change, which allows gay men to be married. There's a healthy-ish health system as well, and I do add ish because of course there's always improvements that can be made, but there are things which help us. The Ministry of Health pretty much gives us autonomy to act in our work. We have a single layer of central government, which again I know in Australia there are many more complexities. And I think probably as a result of the policy and system that's in place, it's pretty commonplace for people to be able to have public conversations about sex. And you'll see from some of the examples I show later in the presentation that we are able to get away with quite a lot in what we put out into the public arena. Just to say a little bit about where the NZAF prevention story has come from and is now. From the beginning, so around '85 back home through to only about 4 years ago, 2010, we employed a very traditional health promotion model in our work with gay men and other MSM. Very much sort of spray and pray approach. Here's all the information, take from it what you will, and make your own decisions around how to take care of your health. Back in 2010, Simon Harger-Ford, who was a previous Director of Prevention at the NZAF, led a really significant review of the way in which we do our core prevention business. And I'm sure that none of this will be new to any of you. We had more people living with HIV, of course, greater prevalence and driving greater incidence. We had this thing called the internet and this real burgeoning of mobile apps, just facilitating rapid partner change and network connectivity in ways that was very, very new and we'd never seen before. Evidence was showing us that all of the kind of individual sit-alone campaigns that we had been running were indeed educating, but of course we know that simply providing information to people doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into practice, and we were seeing that. And again, you're all very familiar, I'm sure, with these discourses around increased complacency, a younger generation of gay men growing up not knowing, not feeling, not experiencing what, including myself, what those of you in the earlier years of the epidemic did. And so with all of that, and with a whole base of epi data, behavioural data from the AIDS Epidemiology Group at the University of Otago, a new prevention plan was charted, and it was decided that social marketing was the way forward. So social marketing was developed in the 1970s, and really all we're talking about here is the application of commercial marketing principles to sell a behaviour change that, in essence, the overall goal is to benefit the target audience. And it's been used a lot in many areas, especially of public health. One of the key features of social marketing is that we segment who we're trying to talk to based on psychographic profiles rather than demographics. So we're segmenting audiences on the behaviours that they engage with rather than any sort of identity group that they might attach themselves to. So it was quite a shift for us in terms of who we were talking to. Those of you familiar with marketing will know the traditional 4 Ps: product, price, place, and promotion. In social marketing, we add 2 more Ps. The first of those is policy, and this connects back to what I was saying at the beginning around the need to have a legislative and regulation environment that allows you to